Boy, that picks up.
It's the new microphone.
Yeah. It looks like a rocket ship.
I need to put a logo on it.
Yeah, you do. Something kind of looks. We're not live, right?
Well, now we are live. Live from the mainstream cannabis media empire. I'm Travis Lippert, CEO of Verks Unlimited Limited, better known as VeedVerks.
I'm Michael Miller, marketing director for PanaceaLife.com, a CBD manufacturer in beautiful Golden, Colorado.
Golden.
It's golden up there.
Awesome. Well, I think our technical difficulties are
Averted.
behind us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're on today with Dr. Jamie Baumgartner from Panacea Life Sciences. Thanks for joining, Jamie.
Welcome to the show.
No problem, gentlemen.
What did you do before you got into this
That's
industry?
just throwing you into the fire right there.
Right there.
Right there.
Well, let's see. So I spent about 25 years doing drug discovery, drug development. My PhD is actually in biochemistry, and then most of my career has been in pharmacology, meaning what do drugs do to the body and how you can avert disease using novel compounds or biologicals. So in 2003, I moved over to a contract research firm called MDS Pharma Services and ran the drug discovery, drug development program or division. And so we effectively would take a look at late-stage clinical compounds and prioritize those for clinical development, and then work through the launch into clinical studies and babysit those programs through phase 2. So majority of my life has been drug development.
Wow.
Contract research organization, is that what MDS Pharma Services would
Yeah,
be?
so it was a outsourced company that would help smaller biotechs or even large pharma streamline their operations for clinical success.
Can you name any of the drugs that you might have worked on?
Only Prozac.
No, I wouldn't be able to share that with you.
Oh, really?
But,
Okay.
No, I mean they're proprietary programs. Some of them are still, even though it's been 5 years since I've left that industry, some of those programs are still alive, and some of the patents are still being in process. So,
sure. Where'd you get your PhD at?
Washington State University.
Nice.
Yeah, out on the Palouse. It's a good place.
Have you ever seen Sasquatch?
Oh my God! It's the afternoon show. It's the drive home show.
Do you believe in Sasquatch?
Do you believe in Sasquatch? You're from the Northeast.
Well,
Northwest.
Washington State.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's really funny is that there was a professor there that actually researched Sasquatch, and he had a whole research group, and they go out on the weekends and they try and find Sasquatch prints and everything else. Unfortunately, it turns out that what he was doing was he had big plaster casts, and he would tape them to his boots, and he'd walk around and make Sasquatch footprints.
Cool.
Oh,
yeah. Ingenious. So. Yeah.
That
keeps them employed at the school.
Why not?
Why not?
Somebody's got to do it.
Exactly. Wasn't it on a show in the last 2 weeks or whatever? We were talking about that one film of the Sasquatch.
Yeah.
And it came out to be a fake, that real famous one?
I don't think that's been proven yet.
Okay. All right.
I think that's...
as we digress.
Can we continue digressing real quick?
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely.
So... our Halloween special this year, we're going to go Sasquatch hunting. And so now Dieter the Ghost is in a Stash Logics case. And for all future Kansas or Oklahoma highway patrolmen who want to open up Dieter's case, the combo is a sequence of the Fibonacci series. It's not 011 to give you a hint, and then inside that will be Dieter the Ghost. But thanks to Stash Logics for doing that. But
I don't know if you can tell, that's got copper wire all around it.
It'll be, the only thing I can hope is to get it on camera. But
with the cop opening.
But this year we're going to go Sasquatch hunting for Halloween instead of ghost hunting.
Nice.
That's the current plan.
Is that what you have out here in the Rockies? Sasquatch?
I don't know.
Okay. We have the haint. I told you that before.
In Florida?
In Florida.
Yeah.
In South Florida. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So Jamie.
So then when you got into the hemp industry then?
Yeah.
Well, so we're running a testing laboratory in Fort Collins, taking a look at in vivo efficacy of novel pain compounds. So we're working contract research with AstraZeneca, Pfizer, Merck, Takeda. and again, helping determine which compounds had the best chance to go into the clinic. We were approached by a Denver company that I won't name, but they asked us if we would help them differentiate their cannabis extract and test it in the same pain models that major pharma was using to characterize their clinical compounds. And at that point, this is back in 2015, it seems like an eternity ago, but when we took a look at those cannabis extracts and we threw in a CBD control, we immediately were blown away, and we pivoted the company to focus in on taking a look at hemp CBD with relation to inflammatory pain, postoperative pain, as well as other psychiatric or neurological disorders. So I've been doing this for 4 years now.
Because I'm wondering, is that when you got into the alien research?
Alien? Tell me you're not into alien research.
No. Well, you brought in Bigfoot.
Oh, boy.
So Panacea Life Sciences is one of the larger hemp product manufacturing companies that I am personally aware of. And like we were talking, before the show or emailing about CGMP compliance is, it appears just quite certain that due to FDA regulations coming up and then, states following along, that this industry is entering a new phase,
right,
where we're not just getting inspected by the health department. We're going to have to just have our stuff a lot more buttoned down. And you've got this facility in Golden that was a former EPA facility with just tens of thousands of square feet of clean manufacturing space. And when I look at what you're doing, I see the next 2 years of this industry is exactly the sweet spot to be in. And I wondered what your thoughts are on that.
Well, I think we're still in a gray zone with respect to what the government, whether state, federal, local, how they want to regulate this. And I do think there is a level of regulation that we need. So with that being said, what Colorado is doing, and I'll get it back around to Panacea in a second, is Colorado's going to take a comprehensive look at the entire supply chain, if you will, from seed all the way to marketing of hemp products. So it's called the CHAMP project. And it was created by Senate Bill 240. And so CHAMP is the Colorado Hemp Advancement and Management Plan. And so 8 stakeholder groups have been formed that consist of both government departments as well as private industries. And the goal here, I think it's a really good aim to actually have government regulators meeting with private industry manufacturers like ourselves or growers out in the field, to come up with the right way to regulate so that it's progressive. The government feels comfortable. Consumers actually benefit by having higher quality products. And the rules should be set so that they're consistent, so businesses like ours can chart a pathway forward. Now, Travis, you brought up regulations, and you brought up the FDA. And we could start talking about a number of different 3-letter acronym government organizations. Right now, we're sitting in a gray zone. We don't know whether the FDA is going to rule that hemp-based products are food, dietary supplements, or whether they're going to be called a drug. And with respect to that, the regulations for manufacturing are going to be very different when you're talking about a food product or dietary supplement product or a drug-level pharmaceutical-grade product. Now, at Panacea, we have made some educated guesses about where we think it's going to go. And we've built this facility here in Golden to try and stay ahead of what those regulations are and be in position so that we can be compliant as soon as the guidelines come out. So we were last year we were in 8,000 square feet in Louisville. And it was a really nice facility. But
I loved it. It was nice.
Yeah, I mean, the executive offices were basically just warehouse space with a big heater. And you couldn't hear anybody talk just because the heater would be going off. But it formed the core of our company culture, where extraction, manufacturing, and the executive offices were all in one confined space. And so the company culture here is one that no job every job should be done by everybody. So it doesn't matter whether Michael comes in, and if something needs to be done, he'll jump and do it. If it's floor sweeping, I'll jump in and do it. And I think that's pretty important for what we're trying to do. Now, the facility itself that we have here is about 48,000 square feet. And so we've dedicated 8,000 square feet for clean room manufacturing. And so we just had our inspection last week by CDP-H&E, or Department of Health, Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. And we're off to a really good start in terms of being compliant for GMP food manufacturing, which is 22 CFR 117. And then we'll be working towards the end of the year to actually be supplement level quality. So each one of these build upon itself. There's a certain foundation you have to set in terms of how you operate, how clean the facility is, and specific elements that you have, such as hand washing sinks in every room that you're actually making product. And then when you go to supplement, you've got a different level of quality control you've got to put into place. And again, we're built for that. And right now, if the FDA comes out and says all CBD hemp products are based on a drug level, our facility is based to be able to meet that if we need to. But we've got some systems that we have to build in to be compliant with the CFR 210. So anyway, part of the drive for the CGMP piece is how is the FDA, how is the state going to regulate or determine what CBD products are? Is it going to be a food, a supplement, or a drug? And then from that standpoint, we'll have the appropriate regulations, and all businesses will understand what they need to accomplish in order to safely make quality products.
So there's different groups that are focused on certain parts of the CHAMPS discussion. You know, like you'll have, like, I think it's seed. What encompasses that? What are the different divisions of the discussion?
So there's 8 working groups. Okay. So if I'm looking off, I don't have it memorized. So I have this cheat sheet in front of me. So there's research and development and seed. So what qualifies as a research program and development of different seeds and genetics? How do you want the rules for those to be strain names and strain genetics, so that way you've got a stable nomenclature you can use. Right now we call cherry wine number 5 a strain that has really good major and minor cannabinoids, good terpene profiles. But cherry wine 5 from company A is going to be very different from cherry wine number 5 from company B. Okay, and so I don't really know what the outcome is going to be with respect to that particular group. But I think what they will be working for is trying to get to a stable definition of what that strain is and what those seeds are and how to characterize those. The second group is called Cultivation, which is growing practices, what's allowed for fertilizers, pesticides, so on and so forth. What are the best practices to make sure that there's not mold in the product once it's harvested? What are the drying procedures? Are they going to test for moisture content like they would with other commodity crops, so on and so forth? Group 3 is transportation. Last time I was with you fellas, we had a transportation issue, to where we were trying to move 17,000 pounds from Kentucky out here to Colorado, and it got seized in Oklahoma. And so transportation of the raw material in terms of biomass, how is that going to be handled? And also what happens with crude oil? With respect to once we extract the crude oil, it actually exceeds the definition of hemp of the 0.3% level of THC. So how is that going to be transported? What are the paperwork you need in terms of test results, manifests, so on and so forth? Group 4 is about testing, how to unify or align the different testing laboratories so that you get, if you go to testing labs 1 through 5, you get the same level of cannabinoid, terpenes, so on and so forth. And also, I anticipate that with that testing piece, there's going to be what tests are required to qualify a crop or qualify a product, and how that's going to be happening. Group 5 is processing, which effectively is extraction. And again, some of the issues I just brought up with transportation will actually in testing will actually touch on the processing piece. What are the preferred extraction methodologies, processing, and how do you qualify that end product so that Department of Health can say, yes, it's pasteurized, or yes, this is good to go into a manufactured product. It's safe as a food dietary ingredient. Manufacturing is really the place where Panacea is going to have input in. And manufacturing, like Travis was mentioning, is how do you handle the CGMP requirements? What are the elements that actually make this safe to release to the public in terms of batch release? And what are the processes and procedures and systems that need to be in place to actually manufacture a safe, reliable, reproducible product? Group 7 is going to be marketing. And this involves labels, if you will. So, for example, our labels, we label as hemp oil input, which would be compliant with federal law, but not necessarily compliant with Colorado law, where Colorado wants to have the CBD input on each label. So how much CBD is in the product versus how much hemp oil is in the product. And then the last one, which is impacting everybody across the industry, is banking and insurance. So for the farmers, can they insure their crop? For companies like ours that want to do a future buy, how do we actually ensure that our down payments are going to be protected if a crop is lost, for example? And banking, of course, is a major problem. Not so much in terms of banks accepting money and allowing you to run your savings account or checking account through that, but merchant processing, credit card processing is a major issue right now for the industry. So those are the 8 groups.
So we've got genetics, cultivation, transportation, testing, processing, manufacturing, marketing, and banking/insurance.
I love it all.
Yeah. Well,
illegitimized
I don't know.
Industry. I think we need some
banking, insurance is.
We need banking.
I don't personally love it.
You don't?
Well, I just don't like talking about insurance.
Well, he has it out for a couple banks.
Yeah, TCF Bank.
You got to watch the morning show to understand what's happening right now.
Well, I mean, so guys, one thing, in all seriousness, is that Colorado needs to do this because other states are actually catching up in terms of Colorado's lead on the hemp industry, and actually having clarity across this entire spectrum is really important, even if you don't like the banks. It's a necessary evil to make sure the business can operate, seamlessly.
Do you think that Panacea could make a product that had less than 0.00065% THC?
Sure.
You could get it down to less than 0.00065%.
No one has been able to yet. I'm disqualifying that right now.
Yeah, we're 0 for 81.
For what? To get on NASCAR.
To get on NASCAR.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were there.
So with respect to using CBD isolate, do you still see THC popping up? Because at that level, you're actually within the background of the testing apparatus.
Yeah. I don't know. It was $1,000 lab test. We had to send it to a urinalysis lab in Utah called SMRTL, and they tested our product. It started off with isolate with non-detectable THC in it, tested by certainly the types of labs that are going to be involved in this testing discussion, and also made by the types of labs that, by former Novartis facilities in the greater Denver metropolitan area. And it comes back with 0, it's tested before it goes into the product. It's tested after we turn it into the product, whereby we're diluting it significantly from pure isolate. We're putting it into lotion bottles, right? Mm-hmm. And then we sent it there, came back with 0.00065% THC in this.
And it has
lotion.
To be 0 all the way.
0 until you're out of zeros that you can measure. And
out of zeros. Could we do that? Could you, Dr. James?
Dr. James. The thing is, probably not. I mean, one of the things, Travis, with that particular methodology, they're using a ultra-sensitive machine. To
keep you out of the industry, right? Go ahead. I'm sorry. What's it called?
A mass spectrometer, probably a triple quad mass spec that takes it down to parts per billion or even below that. So the question that I would ask is, what is the error in detection on that instrumentation? Okay,
blame it on the machine. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no.
Potentially.
I mean, so each instrumentation is going to have its limits of detection.
Right.
Okay, and they can have an error rate within that method. So based on that, your analysis, if you tested 10 people with respect to spike levels of THC, so take their urine, spike in 1 part per billion. I think that's the number you're looking at. And what's the error rate? What do you see? And does that test result that you actually spend $1,000 on, does that fall within the error rate of the instrument? And if it does, then it's not a significant result.
And either they let you or get your $1,000 back. That's some good advice right there.
That is.
I bet you cannot wait,
I cannot wait to follow up with this phone call.
Well, I'll send you my consulting fee in the mail.
Okay.
No, we're not charging you for this professional interview.
But in all seriousness, there's two issues. One is the methodology that's being used, and what's the error rate with respect to that methodology. And then secondly, and I get this is the hard part, is that level of THC that you're talking about, is that even relevant?
Well, if you're looking for 0 and it comes back as non-zero, comes back at 6.5 micrograms per gram.
Well, Travis, here's the thing. You could probably take a tub of water, put it in our facility.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and then take a sample with that, and you probably test positive just because of the amount of dust in the air when we're actually doing our extraction. And so when you take a look at trace amounts, and when you're going that low, you really are talking about trace amounts. Take somebody who hasn't done THC, run their urine in a blinded test, and see if they come up with that same number. It's very possible.
Well, I know I'm not going to be the guy to supply that.
Neither am I.
I guarantee.
Dr. James can. Well, sure. No, answer that. No, of course you can.
No, I bet that.
No, Dr. Jamie, not you.
Right.
You can't.
No, I can't.
They don't even need the dipstick to test it. You can just probably look.
Yeah.
It's all good.
What do you think I keep hearing rumors now. I've gotten a couple of texts, a couple of phone calls, read a bunch of stuff on Facebook. It looks like the FDA is going to weigh in on hemp in September or some. Have you heard any rumors about that?
I haven't heard anything on timelines. I do know that the latest news that we have is that they're asking for public comment with respect to safety, and that's through July 16th. But they're not looking for people to say, hey, yep, I took 5 pills and I felt great, and my doctor said it didn't cause any damage to my system. What they're looking for are more controlled scientific studies to take a look at safety. And really the issue here is, can they designate hemp as generally recognized as safe? And that goes into a lot of the formulas that they'll take a look at for, is it a food ingredient? Is it a dietary supplement or a drug? So after they receive any comments or any input July 16th, they'll assimilate that, and more than likely you're looking at about October before they'll hold the next meeting. So it seems to be about a 3-month cycle that they're actually working on with respect to assimilating comments or asking the next round of questions. In all seriousness, Travis, Michael, we're probably looking at 2 years, maybe 3 years before.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah. Before they come out with clear guidelines. So right now, although the FDA is, the 1,000-pound gorilla, we're relying mostly on progressive state guidance, and then comply with that we can then hopefully match up with what the feds will come out with for their regulations and guidelines as well.
What's the link, the process of, let's say, Panacea going to become a GMP certified manufacturing facility?
Well,
is that like a year process? What are the things that you would have to do?
Well, for us, I can tell you what our timelines look like. Different organizations will have different timelines for what they can actually accomplish. So we moved into this facility in the middle of April. Okay. And fortunately, we had a lot of our protocols, standard operating protocols, abbreviated as SOPs, that govern every aspect of our extraction and manufacturing process. Okay. And so how you actually go about doing your work is one important aspect. The other important aspect is the facility itself. Does it have the temperature controls and ability to measure a reproducible environment for your drug manufacturing, or supplement or food manufacturing? So all in all, for us, we're going to be ready for third-party accreditation sometime in October. So that's about a 6-month time frame that I think is realistic when you take a look at third-party accreditation. And again, the things we talked about earlier were food, supplement versus drug. And the regulations for each one of those become more complex as you move towards drug manufacturing. So if it's a pure drug manufacturing, we probably would not be ready for another year, because there's a certain amount of systems that have to be built and document control has to be put into place. And an independent quality group that has to be formed. But our timelines, in October, we'll be ready for third-party accreditation. And then after we do that, we'll have a work list that we need to work through. And we anticipate, and you could call us foolish if you like, but we anticipate inviting the FDA to come in the first 2 quarters of 2020.
I think that'd be awesome.
Well, it's one of those things that we have found that if you're being more proactive with government agencies and invite them as a partner that's going to help you be stronger and make a better product, then you tend to get more cooperation. If you are going to fight and kick and fight, if you will, the government agencies, then you tend to get into more of a adversarial relationship. So instead of inviting them to help you become a stronger company to make better products, you can end up in this adversarial relationship to where they could work on trying to shut you down, like a better way of saying it.
Sure.
The only adversarial relationship I have is with the Kansas Highway Patrol.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
358 is the combination.
358. What's that? 358. There.
That's how you. No, it's the combination on my ghost box for the next time I get pulled over for my license plate.
He's going to film it when the Highway Patrol starts snipping it, and once they open it, what are you going to say? You just let Dieter out. They would slap those cuffs on you right there.
Actually,
crazy.
what they'll do is actually get the guys with a white jacket.
Yeah.
So mine is with Wyoming Highway Patrol, not Kansas. So every time I go north, I end up getting a ticket. Not down south.
Yeah.
And then of course the Oklahoma Highway Patrol.
Yeah, they're an interesting crew. So
yes, they are.
So, are you looking at other cannabinoids besides CBD?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, so one of the things that we've been so focused on CBD and THC that we've lost track of the other 110 or so cannabinoids. Each one of those are going to have different biological properties. And so one of the things that Panacea is investing heavily in, not only for the GMP certifications, but is to move the company from a cannabidiol company to a cannabinoid company. And so as the genetics of the plant actually express other cannabinoids, then we'll actually move those into production and research. So we want to take a look at cannabigerol will probably be the next one up, and look at the biological effects for cannabigerol, what the dosing requirements are for cannabigerol to get its effects, and then move that into manufacturing of products.
How about THCV?
THCV is people are chomping at the bit for that one, and the reason being is that THCV has been reported to actually have appetite suppression. So I actually spent about 8 years of my life doing drug development to find the fat pill.
Did you find it?
No, we didn't find it.
There's no miracle pill, no shot.
No miracle pill. No.
Okay. Did you work for Vivus or Rexagen or Arena?
Well, didn't work for any one of those. Worked for Amgen at the time, and so we had a lot of programs that died on the vine because we couldn't find something that was safe and something that would actually inhibit food intake. And when you take a look at those other compounds you're talking about, they're not great. Rimonabant's probably the one that from Sanofi that would be the best one, which was a CB1 antagonist. Now, what's interesting about that one is it did cause a 5 to 10% reduction in body weight, and was approved for a while in Europe. It was not approved in the United States. And when they did a little more diligent research, what they found is that a significant proportion of people taking that CB1 antagonist had what they called suicidal thoughts.
Oh, that's not good.
No. And so it was taken off the market. Now, THCV appears to have a novel mechanism that does not have that side effect. Now, the information's really early, but as the plants actually, or the genetics actually have a plant that creates a THCV-rich cannabinoid, that's going to be of huge interest to us as well as to others in the industry, as well as pharma in general.
Sure.
So
that's what interests me about THCV, is that it is more far removed from, like, all these molecules start as, geranyl pyrophosphate, and CBD and THC, or CBDA and THCA, are way more similar than THCVA. It's like a earlier ancestor. It's like a monkey versus an ape to the molecules.
Great analogy. But you heard it here.
At the same time, though, I think THCV you could grow in hemp, but if you do a dab of THCV, you're going to get really high.
Can you extract it now?
Sure.
Really?
Why not?
It's in all the.
I don't know, Dr. Baumgartner.
Yeah.
Can you extract THCV?
Well, theoretically, sure, but we haven't seen biomass that has enough THCV in it that would allow for commercial operation. Right. So you're talking more about benchtop type of isolation and using sub-gram quantities, which would be great for personal use, but not for industrial applications.
Do you think that, as part of the CHAMP initiative with the people working on genetics and seeds, do you foresee regulations coming out about, or I don't know, how do you see the future of hemp genetics? Like we had on our Thursday show, we had Mr. Soul in from Grimm Brothers Seeds, or Brothers Grimm? One of those Brothers Grimm.
Right.
And he was talking about breeding Cinderella 99 and Rosetta Stone, and it was. And I've watched that show like 4 times because I learned so much from this guy talking about it. But the whole time we ran out of time. But I just wanted to ask him, what would you do with hemp if you could grow a high CBC strain? Like how many years is that going to take, and who's working on it?
Dr. Jamie?
I think a lot of people are working on it, but one of the things that the industry is focused on is non-GMO. Okay, so you're talking old-fashioned Mendelian genetics, right? To where people are back processing, cannabis strains to hemp strains, and trying to look for beneficial properties. So it's still maintaining that low THCA level that you need for hemp versus what you get with cannabis. But how long is it going to take? I mean, so 4 years ago, there was one strain of hemp, Auto 2. Okay. And now when you take a look at it, there's 8 to 10 strains that have been stabilized. So we're seeing an advancement with these breeding techniques and crossbreeding to actually come out with these more complex genetics, more complex strains that I think are beneficial for patients or customers, consumers. But to target a specific strain to get to CBC, all you have to do is just follow the pathway and the timelines for what it took for cannabis to get there. And that's what I think you would see with respect to hemp. Now, Travis, I think Michael, you were asking about, is the CHAMP initiative going to focus in on the other cannabinoids? I don't think so. I mean, I think right now we're concerned about the cannabidiol market and, how to handle the THC component. And I'm hoping that this initiative is not going to be a one-time deal to where we, the different stakeholder groups actually come out with a set of rules, and that's going to be set for 5 years. I'm hoping that on an annual basis there'll be small tweaks, and that way you'd have your THCV conversation or CBG conversation, CBC conversation, as the plants or the strain breeds actually catch up to it. But I think, with some of these other strains, one of the things that's interesting, like for the CBG strains, since CBG is a precursor to THC, if you have a high CBG strain, you're able to arrest that processing down to THC. Technically, you'd have a strain that would have almost zero THC in it, and you have your high CBG.
That's amazing.
So,
do you think that the industry, especially the pharma version of the hemp industry, do you think that they'll be growing high CBG plants and then using like THCA synthase, yeah, and making their own cannabinoids based on CBGA and chemicals?
And chemicals.
And other things. Like enzymes.
Oh, okay.
So Travis, you've got experience in the pharma industry, right?
Yes.
So what I'm going to say is probably material you've already memorized from years ago, but it all comes down to a business case. Okay. So what pharma can do really, really well is they can make drugs, they can make a chemical compound, they can scale it, they can purify it, they can manufacture it. One of the things that I don't think that pharma is going to do very well at is dealing with a complex biological mixture that is hemp oil or cannabis oil. How do you quality control against all the components there to turn that into a bona fide reproducible drug? So just from that hemp oil piece, that's going to be difficult for pharma to take a really hard look at. If it's a pure compound, everything's set up for pharma to run that through clinical trials and run that into a drug. But a biological extract is really hard for traditional pharma to tackle. Now, when you take a look at chemical modifications, I would say the other thing that pharma doesn't do really well is how many farms does pharma actually run? Zero, right? So from that standpoint, farming is something that the pharmaceutical industry is not going to do very well at. Okay. There was a lot of experimentation about using transgenic plants to actually generate specific biologicals back in the early 90s. And the ability to process that biomass was not something that was very attractive from a cost perspective or for infrastructure perspective. Now, I could be wrong, but farming and dealing with complex biological mixtures are just not in farmers' wheelhouse. Now, the other question you're talking about is taking a biological mixture, using a synthase or another enzyme to convert a cannabinoid into a specific other cannabinoid is something that's possible. But it all comes down to how expensive is that going to be? And does that drive the cost of goods up so much that it's not going to be competitive with a natural biological extract? Now, the other component here that's really, really important, I couldn't stress enough, is that I think we've been lucky with cannabidiol or THC being pure molecules and not having side effects. Okay, when you take a look at the movement to molecular pharmacology and to specific precision drugs, pharma's gotten into a lot of product recalls and a lot of problems. So probably the best case would be Vioxx, which is a celecoxib 2 inhibitor. Okay, worked great for pain, but the problem was that it was overbalanced and only hit on that particular enzyme, which then led to heart problems. Okay, one of the beauties of hemp oil or cannabis oil is you have counterbalanced mechanisms that allow this material to be extremely safe. And when we go to pure type of molecules, we've got to be really careful about have we thrown the system out of balance so that we have toxic side effects we don't see with cannabinoid-rich oils.
Yep.
So the first allergy medications were the same way. So when you take a look at the first antihistamines that came out, there was a company in Kansas City that made the first non-drowsy antihistamine for allergy. Okay, and the problem with that was if you drank grapefruit juice or had a little bit of alcohol, it caused that compound to actually increase in plasma concentration. And
did it state it on the box?
No, it didn't, because they didn't know about it at the time, Michael.
Right. Wow.
So what would happen is that compound would actually just elevate just enough, and it would actually stop your heart.
Oh.
Okay. And so the interesting part with that is that it was a really, again, if you weren't drinking anything else, you took low doses, it was a great medication. But it killed the company, and it's unfortunately, patients died.
Wow, that's
okay?
sad.
So these precision molecules are not the answer every single time to actually come up with new medications. And I think, Travis, when you're looking at conversion using THC synthase or other molecules or enzymes, the cost is going to be really important. But also, what's the safety profile of that end product that you're looking at? Yep. And so those are things that have to really be taken into consideration before you see a pharmaceutical-driven material. So hopefully that makes sense.
Sure,
it does. Yeah, I think it's how it's going to end up shaking out. For these big drug companies, they're going to have to come out with something to. They need to make it like Keytruda or, just some chemotherapy type of regimen, and be able to just use that existing system, which I think means that first of all they're going to have to, separate these things out or create novel ways of making them, and then putting them back together in a certain combination, and then running through the entire clinical trial process for this drug, and then maybe finally you'll be able to get basically RSO prescribed to you from your doctor, except it'll be like a for cancer, except it'll be like a 3 or 4 magic compound.
Sure.
I think synthetically derived. If you can just get it down to where you've got just pure ingredients that are
right.
just absolutely pure, and then you mix them up just very precisely, and you can build all of that IP around it, and then I think you can end up with a cannabinoid-based drug that would actually, be prescribed to eliminate cancer cells. And in the meanwhile, we know tons and tons and tons of people who have, without a doubt, benefited from
sure.
Cancer patients who've benefited from taking whole plant extract that you can make, with a rice cooker.
Our interview last month, they got us kicked off Facebook.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, Travis, the other thing you brought up that I neglected to mention is can you patent this? So whatever that end product is, can you patent it? And remember that if pharma takes this into clinical development, it's going to take 12 to 14 years. It's going to take about $1.5 billion. And if the pharmaceutical companies cannot protect it, they're not going to make that type of investment. And so in the United States, you cannot patent a biological extract. So you'd have to go back to either how you make those purified compounds, or you have a precise mixture of purified compounds you put together that you then would have to patent. But I think that I'm not a lawyer. Unfortunately, I have to read too many legal things today. But I think that's something, if you get a patent attorney on, it would be interesting to get their take about what the pathway would be for pharma to take one of these compounds or biological extracts to market, how they'd be able to protect themselves for that type of investment.
Yeah.
Well, we are sure getting a look behind the curtain on everything. Really, what a lot of people don't think every day about, the CBD that we take, how it's manufactured, everything in it,
yep.
the science now and the science in the future.
You watching NASCAR? This is the real CBD industry.
Yeah, absolutely. What was it? I sent you a link the other day. Indy is accepting CBD companies now.
Yeah, I saw that.
As sponsors or prescribers?
Sponsors.
Yeah, they did it.
Yeah.
The Indy 500, there was the company was called Kraft, and then 3 numbers that are some like New Mexico area code or something like that. Like not 710 or something.
Yeah, good for them though.
Yeah, I bet it cost a pretty penny. But yeah, Indy let it. It's only a matter of time, but as long as you have to pass a test where it comes back with an infinite number of zeros,
they do
from
that.
Mass Spec, like $1,000.
You could take tap water and probably run it through the same test, and there'll be trace elements of THC.
You can find out for $1,000.
No,
I'm already $1,000 in the hole on this. I don't.
Wow.
Wondering how much good money to throw after bad, but mostly I'm just going to make a phone call.
Yeah.
And talk to them about their methodology and their error rate. Thanks to Dr. Jamie.
Dr. Jamie, how's the future of CBD in America and hemp?
Well, I think it's pretty bright, Michael. I mean, the market forecasts say that this is going to be a $22 billion industry by 2022, which is 3 years away.
How much is it right now about?
God, Michael, I don't know an accurate number.
Okay.
It's about 145,000.
I think
it's probably
honestly,
$1.5 billion.
I think we're looking at about $1.5 billion right now.
I think so.
But again, there's some things that are holding the industry back, okay, from reaching its full potential. I think that $22 billion, if you take away a lot of the hurdles we face right now, that I think that $22 billion is actually underestimating the domestic market. And those numbers, by the way, don't take into consideration the world market. Okay,
wow.
So there's a couple of things that the major hurdles that need to be addressed here in the States. One is, Travis, banking is a big one.
Yep.
And merchant processing. Okay. Yeah. And so that's the number one issue. The second issue is really how are we going to regulate this? What's the FDA going to say? How do we actually deal with this with a unified state and federal program? So businesses like ours, businesses like VWorks, we don't care what the rules are. We just want to know what the rules are and that they're going to stay in place for 2 to 3 to 4 years. And then we'll navigate appropriately through those rules. Okay. So if you can solve banking and we get clarified rules of how we're supposed to move forward, that's where we can achieve that $25 billion mark. Okay. Now, as an industry, I think we've got some important items that we have to ask ourselves about, and that is the need for quality. So when you take a look at the FDA letters that have been sent out to several companies, and again, I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. This is just something it's a fact. If you take products off the shelf and you could take those into Travis's $1,000 test, how much CBD is in that? Does it match what's on the label? Okay. How much THC is in that? Does it match an industrial hemp compound or elixir or whatever's in there? If you take a look at the FDA letters from 15 and 16 and 17, you've got quality issues. So as an industry, we have to build consumer trust by making sure that those products are made safely and they're made reliably so that the label matches what's inside the bottle. Doesn't matter whether it's a tincture, a lotion, a soft gel, what have you. Okay. And I think that's where the GMP piece comes in, Travis. I mean, in terms of having that level of regulation for manufacturing. And I think it's important. I'm not normally a big government proponent. But here, I do think that there needs to be a balance between regulation and industry responsibilities to make sure that people get the products as they're stated. The other element that some people will say it's a minor component to actually achieve that $25 billion, but we need more information. So we need better science. Right now, we're science light. So when somebody comes in and they ask, I've got inflammatory pain. I just twisted my ankle. How much of this should I take? I can give general guidelines, but how do we base that guideline? What are the studies? What are the dosing recommendations that people should know what they should take for what indication?
Yeah.
And on top of that, how many indications has cannabidiol been reported to treat? I think the number's approaching 100.
Oh. In a prescription drug?
Oh, no.
No. So when you take a look at, if you go and do a search about what health benefits will CBD provide for me?
A Google search or a PubMed search?
Well, not PubMed, but Google search.
Oh, everything.
Yeah,
so
1,000.
There's like 100. Anything from antimicrobials like toe fungus, for example, all the way to cancer, right? So I'm naturally a skeptic. So one of the things that I want to know is, how do we sort the wheat from the chaff? How can we, as an industry, be responsible back to people who need an alternative medication, that they know that this is going to work for them? Okay, it's not going to cure everything. It's unfortunately, it's not going to be a panacea, but I do think that it will help with several different indications that are important that we don't have current pharmaceuticals for, such as for pain, such as better medications for anxiety. But again, I think that that scientific research, that clinical research is going to be really, really important for us to achieve that market potential that we just talked about.
Have you ever brushed your teeth with CBD?
I actually have. So
have you really?
What were the results that you experienced from that?
I didn't really see anything, Travis, to be honest. My tongue got a little numb.
What was it? Crude, isolate, or distillate?
Oh, it was. I used some isolate.
Okay.
Just to see what the effects were.
Dude.
What?
You should try it.
Why? What happens?
Next time you go to the dentist and they do that gum check, this is not a medical claim. We don't make toothpaste.
No, we don't.
We're not saying this.
We don't recommend or endorse any service.
When they do the gum check and they're saying like
Beardverks,
Pinks.
Boulder.
Just the numbers go down. I think that it has a lot of potential for toothpaste. In fact, I don't think this market has even begun to see
all the different
saturation until there's a Crest with CBD and a Colgate with CBD. When that day happens, then I'll think, okay, now we're starting to hit our stride, because I think that stuff does magic.
Yeah.
Well, so I'm not going to disagree with you with respect to the ability to actually have good anti-inflammatory effects with the toothpaste, or potentially the ability to kill bacteria in your mouth that would lead to gingivitis or cavities, right?
Mm-hmm.
But here's the question for you. What's the right concentration to use?
Though that's the $1.5 billion 14-year question that you have to be Crest or Colgate to
pay $1.5 billion in investing research.
But again, that's the point, guys, is that there are numerous benefits for cannabidiol. Exactly what they are, we've got to research. And then how much is in there, right? So from that standpoint, we've got a lot of work to do.
You know when Carl's Jr. did that CBD burger on 420?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they put the CBD in the sauce. So I don't know how much CBD, but I think they got it onto the burgers with sauce, which, pretty smart if you think about it.
Right.
But that got me thinking about the ingredients that go into everything that we consume. And say that the hemp that they put in there was nasty, nasty stuff, and it was grown with all these pesticides and whatnot. I think that the hemp industry, I think that if you have hemp that tests positive for glyphosate, that its value just plummets. But you could have it you could have CBD infused oatmeal, and that oatmeal is already just absolutely, my understanding is a lot of farmers spray glyphosate, oat farmers, as part of harvesting. That's how they kind of make these oats become harvestable, start the drying out process. And
so it kills them.
Yeah, it kind of kills them. It kills them, and then they go harvest it. So I think that I wouldn't object if the entire country had to follow all of these new hemp rules that we're going to have. We're going to have to put QR codes on our stuff that leads to lab results that say that heavy metal testing and pesticides and residuals, and of course the cannabinoid profile. Mm-hmm. But what's the difference between a CBD infused thing of oatmeal versus non-CBD infused?
Dr. Jamie?
Was that really a question?
Not really.
Not really. It was a statement and kind of a question.
Well, don't you think that as we look for regulations, don't you think that we should consider the fact that a lot of these regulations, what's the difference between a chocolate bar and a CBD infused chocolate bar? If it has 5 milligrams of CBD in it.
Sure.
You have to go through so much more testing for that chocolate bar now. You're going to have a QR code,
right,
go into all those lab results. So what about the rest of the stuff that went into the chocolate bar? I hope that this market ends up in a place that carves out a little room for regulating it like the industrial agricultural commodity, like corn, like soybeans, like sorghum. And if they hold hemp to a higher standard than that, then maybe they should hold corn to a higher standard as well.
Well, I think that's where we come back to the way that Colorado is structured. That champ initiative should get us there. Now, the hurdle for hemp or cannabidiol will be a little bit higher initially because you've got a unique ingredient in terms of trying to monitor that CBD and THC. And also that the hemp plant is pretty unique in that it sucks up whatever's in the soil.
Yep.
So we've actually seen crops to where I know the farmer didn't put any pesticides on it, but they used, I don't know if it was oats, but it might have been potatoes or something along those lines years previously where they had used pesticides. And even in a year where they didn't use any pesticides, it still spiked as positive. So the hemp plant, part of the reason why the Chinese hemp has been, I'd be really wary about buying any Chinese material.
Amen.
Because they were using hemp for soil reclamation. Mm-hmm. So if you plant that material on toxic waste dumps, anything in the soil gets sucked right up into that hemp plant. So heavy metals, pesticides. I haven't seen any studies on radioactivity, but I assume that radioactive material would actually be pulled into the hemp as well.
Sure.
But that's, so Travis, even though that chocolate bar, by itself may have a different set of standards, there are, I think, some good reasons, as long as it's within reason, to make sure that you're testing to make sure the material is safe, it's safe to consume, and that we properly control it. But again, what I really like about this CHAMP initiative is having government regulators sitting with the industry, invested industry people to make sure that the rules and regulations make sense, that they protect the consumer, but they're also business friendly to make sure that we reach the right solution and without crippling businesses and ability to operate.
Do you know any jokes?
It's the end of our show. You do? No, I can't wait to hear that, actually. It's one of my faves. Do you have any jokes? It wouldn't be the same without. Go ahead, Jamie.
On the spot, I don't have any jokes. No. If you'd have given me some warning, I probably could have pulled a couple out of my hat. So.
It wouldn't be as fun if we gave people warning.
Yeah. It'd be canned. We don't want canned.
Yeah.
We want authentic.
The only jokes that I know would not be appropriate to actually state on your show.
Damn, we hear that from a lot of the guests you ask. The same thing.
So that's the hard part, trying to find a clean one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows a clean joke?
Oh, yeah. God, not a lot. That's for sure.
We could have it. That could be our game show, is the clean joke game show. No.
Think about that one.
You'll dress up in a purple dinosaur outfit.
Definitely. You dress up as a ghost, Dieter the ghost.
So would you mind running us through, as we're kind of closing down here,
Sure.
the different types of products that you guys are making right now at Panacea Life Sciences?
Sure. So we actually make a wide range of both distillate type of products as well as isolate products for those that need to test with multiple zeros for the THC. So each of our products is optimized for bioavailability. So the first one is a 25 milligram CBD sublingual tablet that is really good for fast-acting onset for relief of acute pain or anxiety. We have 3 different soft gels we make, both so a 10 milligram, 25 milligram, 50 milligram soft gel. And again, this allows people to titrate their body weight and their condition to what dose of CBD they need. We also have those versions in distillate as well as isolate. We have a series of gummies that we've just come out with that are THC free, and we're also working on trying to get those with specific additives for more condition specific or health specific issues. We've got a PM formula as a soft gel, combines melatonin and full spectrum to enhance sleep. We've got a salve for pain. We have face cream for skin health. And then we've got a full line of pet products that range from tinctures for small breed, medium breed, and large breed, as well as soft gels for ease of application. Now, each one of those are fish oil infused cannabidiol with no THC in them. And that allows the anti-inflammatory properties and health properties of the fish oil to be joined with cannabidiol. We're working right now on a cat formula that's been a little challenging for us, but we think we'll be able to launch that in the next couple of months. And then we've got a equine product. So it's a unique equine product, a 50 milligram tablet that you can give to horses. We just completed a study on that shows a marked improvement with aged arthritis or movement disorders, and trends towards inhibiting anxiety with horses in terms of social separation. And we see the same thing with the canines as well. But again, as I mentioned, in terms of the science, we've got to come back and do some more studies to get more dose ranging with those. So Panacea has about 20 different products. Each one is made to solve a specific health condition. And we're working feverishly to try and come up with new products that will really help benefit health.
Nice.
I'm looking at putting CBD in fireworks for next year.
Actually, my favorite is the fast.
With CBD.
Yeah, the
what?
The fast, our sublinguals. But even more than that, the equine.
Yeah,
I think everyone at the office loves the equine too.
I have a
It's
slogan
like a sugar tablet.
Only give it to the horses you love.
What's that?
The equine tablet.
Yeah, no.
Only give it to the horses you love.
There's a tagline.
Right there.
Dr. Jamie.
All right. So, Travis, our marketing position has just opened up.
There you go. I just stepped down.
No. Michael, I thought you were national sales director, not marketing.
No, he doesn't even know where your facility is.
I know.
He had to write down Golden.
Yeah.
All right.
You got to do things like that
guys.
sometimes, Jamie. Especially the THC part. Great having you on, Jamie. Really.
Oh,
thank you
thanks,
very
guys.
much.
That was invaluable information that you gave us.
I'm going to go listen to it right now.
Amen.
And then chop out 3 minutes worth of your bullshit.
Yeah, and yours.
And that. And then I'm going to turn it into a podcast.
That's what's up.
Awesome.
Jamie.
Cool.
All right,
Thanks.
guys.
See you tomorrow.
Anytime.
Take
Talk
care,
to you later.
everyone.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for joining, everybody.